infinite complaisance, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
On this edition of Into the Fray, I welcome on with me Tina and her business partner Laura. They are co-owners in Free Will Healing. That is out in St. George, Utah. It's actually very close to me. I might have to go visit there one of these days. And Tina actually reached out because of Leo's episodes and the things that he was sharing. And she said, hey, I have an incredible medium. Her name is Crystal, and I would like for Crystal to talk to Leo. And what they talked about, it's probably between them, and I didn't even push Leo to discuss that for part 3 because he had already talked to Crystal. All I know is he was extremely impressed, and there were some things that she shared with him that I think made a real difference to him, and it was a positive experience. So, Tina, thank you for that, first of all. And welcome to the show, ladies. It's so good to have you both here.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here. Very excited to be here. I listened to your most recent episode with Leo, and just the change in his voice and his energy, the episode of, I believe it was the second one that you had done with him that I had heard. That's why I reached out to you, because my heart just hurt for him. I could feel the pain in his words. And this time he just seemed so much more light and so much more at peace.
I think that he was, and I could sense that as well. And he reached out to me via email shortly before the episode, but it was like directly after him talking to Crystal, and he said, yeah, that went well. He didn't share any details, and I didn't press him because that's none of my business. But thank you, Tina, for facilitating that.
He's worth it. He's a good man.
And now tell everybody about you guys' business. What got you started in this? And all about the different modalities and services that you guys offer there at Free Will.
Laura and I started this. I had a major event happen in my life, and when that major event was over, I saw the world a lot more different than I did beforehand, and kind of understood how energy, because we were made of energy, and how being able to manipulate energy or be able to move energy, that it was healing people. I just kind of grabbed onto that, and Laura and I were friends. We lived in Corpus Christi, Texas. I got a very strong prompting, and I got a job offer, if you will, to come to St. George. Then there was also space there for Laura. When after Laura got there, we started seeing some things with the individual who owned the company that we were working with that weren't quite in alignment with what we were wanting to do. We're not real big on money based. We have to pay our bills. But we also believe that helping people, teach other people how to heal themselves, because we don't heal anything. We teach other people, give them the tools to heal themselves. But we chose to open our own space, and it took about 3 months to find a space, because that was the big boom here in St. George. I don't know if you know this, but I believe 2022 or 2021, St. George was the largest growing city in the United States.
Just because we were here.
Well, absolutely. Well, it started after we got here, of course, followers. But anyway, so excuse me.
They were flocking like the salmon of Capistrano, right?
Exactly. So we started Free Will Healing. We started with 1,700 square feet and 7 offices,
And us staring at each other for a
and
while.
every time the phone would ring, we would run for it, and it was telemarketer. But it grew. People, once people started hearing about us, practitioners started coming and saying, "Hey, can we rent space?" And then we expanded and expanded, and now we are the largest holistic healing center in southern Utah, and we've created a model that's never been done before. Our whole purpose was that we wouldn't have to give you a referral. That it'd be arrogant to believe that I could help everybody, but I can hold your hand and take you over to Laura or to one of the other 14 practitioners that maybe you will mesh with. And I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was a nurse for many, 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 many years. Still am, but I always realized there was nothing more frustrating to a patient at that time. It was to go to the doctor looking for answers, and then you got a referral, and then you had to wait 3 months to get into that, specialist. And like she said, our goal here was, okay, I can't help you. This is not in my wheelhouse. Let me walk you over to Tina or to any of our other many practitioners, and they could get that help or that hope instantly instead of waiting and leaving without any answers.
Yeah, that's the conundrum of today, right? And besides that, I swear sometimes the egos even get in the way with the doctors. They're like, no, I'm sure I can help this person, when probably deep down they know that someone else might be better suited for this patient.
Absolutely.
One of our big things here at Free Will Healing is you can't just rent space. Laura and I have a very stringent interview process, and the first and foremost is if you can't leave your ego at the door, this isn't the place for you. Because if you are going at it from ego of look at what I can do, you're going to hurt someone.
Well, before we started the official recording, you mentioned Reiki. So we know that there's mediums, there's Reiki practitioners. List some of these different modalities and services that you guys utilize there.
Okay, well, let's start. We have scientific modalities as well. We have one practitioner. Her name is Amanda. She works with a machine called the Asira machine, which basically just measures frequency in your body, and it lets you know if you're deficient or if you have an excess of something in your body, whether it be minerals and even energy. It measures ancestral, if you have trauma brought down, inherited in your DNA by ancestors. And then she is also a nutritionist and an herbologist. And she specializes in something called New German medicine, which is very long and detailed, but it's a beautiful theory about our health. We have a beautiful lady her name is Jennifer. She is what we call our most woo-woo, if you want to call it. She is a Pleiadian, which is another planet way far, far away. She's one of those that has volunteered to come to this earth to help us shine our light. But she does quite a few modalities. She does traditional Chinese medicine, massage therapy, a lot of crystal healing. She teaches people to get into what's called the Akashic records through meditation. Oh boy, I know she does.
There's so
many things, but she covers a lot.
Well, and I will say, because aliens kind of freak me out a bit. And so when I very first met her, I mean, she doesn't come out when you very first meet her and say, hello, I'm an alien.
No.
But you know that there's something very different about her in a beautiful way when you meet her. And then one day I just asked her, I was like, you're not from here, are you? And she goes, no, I'm from
the Pleiades.
The Pleiades. Yeah. And I was like, I lived on a street called Pleiades. And she's like, no, this is another planet. And then, I kind of laughed. But then I realized watching her work, it's not of this earth.
No. It's magical.
It is absolutely magical. And the things that I've seen.
Everybody's drawn to her. We do these sound baths every Wednesday, and people just flock to her energy.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then we have another practitioner. Her name is Leila, and she has very deep-rooted Native American
she's
background.
From the Ute tribe.
So she does a lot of massage therapy as well, but she incorporates a lot of Native American healing into that. And it's sort of hard to explain. It's one of those things you gotta try it to be able to understand it. She heals your auric field and gets in there and removes trauma that isn't serving you anymore. Then we have our beautiful Heather, who does Qigong and astrology. and medicinal Qigong as well. Qigong is very similar to Tai Chi with it goes a little bit deeper, more spiritual as well. And then there's her medicinal Qigong is a type of Reiki, but Qigong based. And again, it's one of those things, it's like experience it. And then her astrology is amazing. It's not just your, I'm a Leo and
this is what you're going to do today.
Yeah, it goes so deep. And I personally did it. And then I brought my whole family afterwards to learn how to communicate better. We're 3 different people living in our house, and we all have different forms of communication. And she brought in this beauty of how can she called herself Heather Harmony, and how we can harmonize our living together, how to communicate better. We have Salvador. He is our Reiki master. He is a very, very God-based Reiki. Reiki usually isn't so much God-based, but he incorporates God's, spirit and all the angels. He brings them in for his Reiki. And if you don't know what Reiki is, it's basically channeling heavenly energy, I guess, to push energy out of your body or bring energy into your body. Next would be Tina, but I'll let her explain in a minute when we're done. Who else do we have? We have a new practitioner that's starting. His name is Leonard. He goes by Howie.
Yeah, Leonard.
And he is an angelic. Yeah, he is an angelic healer, he calls himself. And then he helps people find their higher selves and find their purpose through meditation as well. And he is also from he's a Maldakian. Dakian, it's a different planet. Another wave of those volunteers that has come in to help. We have Julian. She does, it's called Life Wave Patches, and that is acupuncture in a patch.
With no needles.
With no needles.
So I'm all about it.
Yes, and they are miraculous. If you haven't heard of Life Wave Patches, I definitely say run to look at those.
She actually saved my life. We were at an event, and I'm deathly allergic to peaches, anaphylactic shock. There was apparently some peaches in the salad dressing that I wasn't aware of. And I started going into anaphylactic shock, and I'm trying to reach for my purse to get my EpiPen. She was sitting behind me, and she just kind of tapped me on the shoulder. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Anaphylactic shock." And all of a sudden she whips out her little file where she has all those little patches in, and she's going up with her fingers, and she's papers flying, patches are going on me. All of a sudden my throat just opened up.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to use the EpiPen. So they are very miraculous.
And then her husband works here as well. His name is Sergio, and he's developed a process they call their business Myonetics. And I call him basically a cross between a chiropractor and a physical therapist, because with chiropractors, they adjust your bones, which is beautiful. But if your muscles have been atrophied and protecting part of your body, your muscles are just going to take these bones back where they need to be. So he actually adjusts the muscles to where they need to be. And it's a long process, but it works wonders. He's saved people from having to do, shoulder surgeries or
hip
surgery. So that is amazing. Yeah, and
then we have Crystal, of course, as you already said,
our psychic medium,
who is the best I've ever seen in my life. She is miraculous. She knew that my mother passed away before I did.
Yeah,
I called her for another reason, and she said, "There's a woman standing next to me with a floppy hat and glasses. Do you know who she is?" And instantly I knew exactly who it was. And I said, "It's my mom." She told me my mother and I did not have a good relationship. And she told me something that had happened to my mother as a young girl. And it was like everything, my whole life fell into place of it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with my mother's trauma as a child. And it all made sense. And I was able to forgive my mom and to let her go. And it was a beautiful experience. Mm-hmm. So,
and I forgot myself.
Yeah,
I work here too.
You do.
Yeah.
You work here more than.
So like I said, I had been a nurse for many, many years and always wanted to be in some kind of healing art, but I was slowly seeing how people were just dealing with their ailments. Nobody was actually healing themselves. And I'm like, I'm not going to give people pills and surgeries for the rest of their life. So I went into yoga to help my own self. I had been suffering from chronic pain for years. And when I discovered yoga, I was like, wow, I have to share this with the world. And I call myself the eternal student. I am always studying something new. So after the yoga, I went into Ayurvedic. So I am a holistic Ayurvedic coach. And Ayurveda is basically an Indian very old, ancient medicine type thing. So, and it's healed through food, mostly lifestyle type thing. So I am a holistic Ayurvedic coach. I do participate with the Life Wave as well with the patches because I think they are amazing. And I have started doing a lot of what's called shadow work and inner child work, helping people go back and finding those patterns that they've inherited from some kind of trauma as a child, and choose to release those and start finding those patterns to, if they choose to, stop repeating those. And I do what's called also ancestral healing, which is going back and helping our clearing that lineage, clearing all of that so that they themselves can stop repeating patterns as well, and so that it doesn't get passed on to their children and their children's children, patterns of war, of famine, of fear, of lack of abundance, of all of those things, to be able to move on in life, especially nowadays.
We also have a lady who does foot and face zoning.
Yes,
Connie does foot and face zoning, and there's so many.
And now we have you.
Oh, well, for me, so society needed me to have a title, so I call myself an emotional trauma intuitive. What that actually means is I am what you need at that moment. I help people to find trauma, kind of like Laura does with, excuse me, with the inner child work, help them find trauma that has created patterns of feeling like they're not enough, feeling like they have to stay in a situation that's not healthy, that's toxic, and just help them to find, my goal is to help them find their self-love. Because when you find your self-love,
nothing can stop you.
Nothing can stop you, because, why do we judge other people? Well, judge other people to avoid looking within, because everybody's terrified that they're going to find this monster within them, and there's not. Well, people who come to me, I don't advertise or anything like that, because people, when they come to me, they're ready, because I'm kind of tough. You know what I mean? It gets pretty intense and emotional. But I have my clients tell me that a session with me is like a year of therapy.
Do you guys happen to have anyone there that, let's say there's a random person, we won't name who, that wants to see a Bigfoot, and, maybe you can have it to where there's this aura about this person that when they walk into the forest, the Bigfoot walks up to the person, high fives them, and walks back into the forest like, no big deal. Do you have anyone there that, maybe for myself?
Yes, that actually would be me. I can't guarantee that the Bigfoot will high five you.
And probably Howie as well.
I think Howie as well, yeah. But no, I definitely I help people to create energy to pull what they're looking for. So actually, yes, Shannon, there is.
Hey now, okay. I will be in touch. Well, and on that note, and if it wasn't obvious, Leo does not live in St. George, so it's important to say that a lot of these modalities, not all of them, obviously, like the patches and things, you have to be there for that, but a lot of the modalities can be done remotely, and you can get in touch in that way and do some of these specialties and modalities remotely. So, okay, of course,
a lot of our presentations do everything over Zoom as well. They offer remote sessions. Yes.
Yeah, I have clients all over the world.
Yeah. So what's a website for Free Will Healing?
That's exactly it.
There you go.
Healing.com.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, that's it. And when you go to the website, you can see a picture of, there's a few that aren't up there yet because they're newer, but you can see a picture of the practitioner. If you click on their picture, it'll pull up their bio, and then there'll be a link to their personal website as well.
Yes, it is actually very nice, clean, informative website. But can we, and I want to have you guys talk about your two podcasts really quickly as well before we dive into these encounters and stories. But I want to back the train up a little bit to the Pleiadian and the Maldakian. Did they, if you talk to them, will they sit down and talk to you about what it looks like where they're from, like their society, their culture?
People share it. They don't normally just voluntarily come out and tell you, but if you were to sit them down, they would be more than happy to share what they feel and what they remember.
Well, we'll get you in touch with them, Shannon, if you want to sit down and talk to them. I know both of them would be totally open to having an open conversation for your podcast.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty darn fascinating. I don't know that
Yes,
I've
so
ever
that's
talked to
Moldavian.
anybody that said we employ a Pleiadian, or I've never heard of the Moldavian. So that's another
Yeah, so
fascinating
Moldavian
thing.
doesn't exactly exist anymore. He was
Oh,
sharing with me the other day. The remnants of it are what is now known as the rings around Saturn.
oh,
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
a
debris.
nuclear
Yeah, nuclear
blast that actually destroyed the entire planet.
now so Crystal is the one that talked to Leo. She is a very talented medium, as you say. Now, when Crystal meets somebody, what was the Pleiadian's name? I'm so sorry.
We call her Valdez.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Crystal first met Valdez, did she instantly know? Oh, you're not from here. Like,
Yes.
yeah. So,
When Howie and Jen met, they met at Jennifer had a part-time position elsewhere at the time, and their story is he walked in there, they just locked eyes and they sort of like pointed at each other, and I can't remember if it was her or him that said you're not from here, and then that
I
was
think
it.
it was her, yeah.
Yeah, and that
Valdez
was
said,
it.
"You're not from here," and he goes, "Neither are you."
Yeah,
mm.
and that's how he ended up here.
Yeah, she's the one that brought him in to meet us, and when he came in, he said, "I'm home." You know, I'm going to tell you, both of our husbands, you know, neither of them work here. My husband owns his own business, and her husband does his own thing too. And we go home and tell them the things that happen here on a daily basis. I mean, it's insane.
There's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
I mean, are they skeptical when you come home and you say, "Well, we hired someone, but they're not even from Earth"?
They used to. My husband used to, not anymore.
Yeah. In the beginning, I think that both of them were like, "Yeah, right." And then
We call a psych ward.
yeah. But the thing is that, you know, we've been open now for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and they've seen it over and over and over so many times, or they'll be here and something will happen, and we'll just look at them like, "See, told you." And I think that it's easy for them to forget that that's a daily occurrence. They'll be like, "Oh, wow, that was crazy remember that one time?" I'm like, "Yeah, that happened 10 times yesterday." And so it's easy for them because they're not here all the time to not understand that this is where we live at work. You know what I'm saying? Like this is our reality now. And it's amazing. I love coming to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it must make everything else seems pretty boring, to be honest with you.
It really does.
Which is great. I mean, that means you love what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so the two podcasts that you mentioned before we officially started, please plug those and let everybody know where to listen.
So we are actually
We're in
the process right now of merging the two together, and we don't have a good name yet. So anybody who has a good thought on a name, please let us know. We're more than happy for advice on that. So we have Who Said You Have To, which is we break down social norms of, like, did you know that marriage isn't actually in the Bible? Just FYI, marriage was actually started by man, by governments, and by, you know, trying to gain more land, or, you know, if we marry these two people off, then they merge and they become more powerful. It was all about power and money, nothing about love. And then the government said, "Oh, wait a minute.
We can make some money out.
We can make some money and we can control stuff. Let's get a blood test and let's make sure that we say it's okay for you two to marry." And, you know, it's really crazy. So we kind of break down those and take the things that are kind of complicated, like cognitive dissonance, you know, and kind of break that down for people. Imposter syndrome, that kind of thing. And then the Oracle and the Warrior, we take like crazy scriptures and kind of break them down into just the ridiculousness of, you know, like this.
Some of the scriptures.
I'm just going to give you an example. So there's, and I'm so not versed, so please forgive me for paraphrasing. Basically, what it said was, if my husband and Laura's husband are fighting, me as my husband's wife, if Laura's husband's getting the better of my husband, I can shoot him, I can cut his head off, I can stab him, I can do anything. But if I touch his testicles, my hand must be chopped off with no mercy immediately.
No, this is Old Testament, mind you.
Yeah, Old Testament. And I'm sorry, that's just,
No sorry
That was
needed. Some people do need their testicles chopped off. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now, but we already know who
Girl.
I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But
that'll be another podcast.
but what we want to do is we want to converge those, and because like the Oracle and the Warrior, we're really kind of very careful. Well, I am very careful about how I word things. Everybody calls us coffee and wine. Laura's the coffee, she'll get you riled up, and I'm the wine that'll calm you down, or fire and ice, and we just want to kind of converge them and just kind of take away the fear of judgment and just be honest and just no sugarcoating, no, just truth of when I met Santa, when you know what I'm saying, like that kind of thing, where it's no more, we just want to be our authentic selves. So we're going to converge the two together.
Wow.
Yeah, and we just don't have the time we had in the beginning of this process.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, me just doing the one once a week that's a full-time job in and of itself. So, yeah, right? I can only imagine having two of them. So all about merge time. Now, do you guys belong to or identify with a certain religion? And I don't want to get down a whole religion path, but it's just I'm just curious. Do you identify with a certain religion, or is it more coming just from a spiritual aspect?
I personally, Tina, I don't believe in organized religion.
Laura doesn't either.
I have no issues with it, as far as I feel every human being has the free will to choose their path, and every human has the right to go to church, not go to church, whatever. But personally, I see that organized religion tends to be a lot of judgment and a lot of fear. And I happen to know God said in the Bible 365 times, do not fear. So fear is not of God. It's not even, actually, I don't know if you know this, it's not even an emotion. And modern science finally has caught up with that. They now explain it is a conditioned response. When a child takes their first steps, they're not afraid of falling. They're only afraid after they have fallen and hit their little butt. And then they're like, oh, okay, I got to be more careful. So when we go into fear, we lose the ability to have rational thought. So, my belief is we need to be aware and respectful, but not fearful. Because, if I climb up a ladder and there's a spider at the top, if I go into fear, I'm going to fall off that ladder. But if I am aware, oh, hey, I see you, you could hurt me, and I'm respectful, and I'm just going to come down that ladder nice and slow, and I'm not going to hurt myself. So,
yeah. And I was raised Catholic, and I've actually had to heal a lot of the trauma and fear that it created in me as an adult. When I recognized that, I left the church probably when I was 14, and I was on this pursuit again, the eternal student. I studied many, many religions, and I was like, these all point to the same thing. They're all different, but they all point to some higher power. And that's where I left that. And it turned into just spiritual. And again, I do free will, like we are here. Everybody, you get to choose. But I'm sort of like, I'm going to say this, down with the churches. Burn them all.
Fire and ice.
They are creating fear and judgment and trauma, and all these people that all of our clients come in and well, I can't do this because God's going to be mad at me and I'm going to go to hell. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And how do we deprogram all of that? And unfortunately, I believe that every church starts with the right purpose of love and kindness, and then it turns into control and fear and judgment. And if you have to go to church to be seen by Sally on Sunday, then they are not there for the right reason. So that is my thought process.
Well, yeah, and if some of these folks that are coming in and going, oh, I'm worried I'm going to hell, it's like, if you're going to hell, then I'm going to hell. We're all going, because my goodness gracious.
Going in a handbasket.
Yeah. Well, from my conversation I had with Father, meaning God, I do believe in God. Met the dude, he's cool. He explained to me, he said, would you create a space? Well, at first he said, you love your daughters, right? And I said, most days. And he said, would you create a space of horrific suffering that they could never get out of, no matter what they did, no matter how much they apologized, no matter what, they could never leave there. And I said, no, that would make me a monster. And he said, do you believe me to be a monster? And I said, not today. And he said, then why would I? Am I a lesser parent than you? And I went, wow, that makes so much more sense. That makes so much more sense. And he said, they tell you I have unconditional love under these conditions. How does that work? And it was very eye-opening for me. And again, I personally, I'm not bagging on anybody who chooses to go to church. I just caution everyone, whether you go to church or not, even if you come to Free Will Healing, keep you. And, the human body cannot lie. Pay attention to what your body's telling you.
Absolutely. Well, and as you say, that's why people store trauma, and it manifests in so many different ways, mentally and certainly physically.
Absolutely. I have a client who has severe back pain, and she's gone to every back doctor, back surgeon, all of this stuff. And she came into Free Will Healing as kind of a last ditch effort.
Mm-hmm. And one of our sound baths.
Yeah. And she met with Laura, and Laura said, I want to introduce you to Tina because I think this is emotional. And sure enough, I started working with her. And after her first session, she was like, I can walk. Granted,
she wasn't in a wheelchair.
Yeah. I can walk.
I'm driving out there right now. I don't know what you ladies can do for me, but after hearing that, I'm coming out right now.
So, but yeah, we create, and where it is in the body, hers was lower back on the right, and she's right-handed. So your dominant hand, right? So if you're right-handed, your right side represents your future, your left side represents your past. So it was right side, lower back. Lower back tends to be childhood stuff. So I was like, do you have a child that you're concerned about their well-being for the future? And she starts sobbing. I'm like, okay, that's where we're going to start. So, but yeah, it's our minds are so amazing. We create everything within us. And the human body will regenerate itself every 24 hours if we allow it to.
Yeah. Just like we can create, it's scientifically proven that we can create illness, right? Our stress that we've created in our mind creates the illness. Then why can't it be?
Why can't we get rid of it? Mm-hmm. And we see it every day. We see it over and over and over and over. And it is miraculous and amazing. Yeah. And that's why we do what we do.
And it's not an easy space to stay in, though. Like,
no.
They're like, great. And then we have so much trauma, all of us stored, like I said, ancestral and our own, that it is a continual, it's a lot of work. It's not magic. A lot of people do get frustrated, we find, and they'll revert back to the pills and the medicine because that gave them a quick little relief, and eventually they come back again because they're like, nope, this isn't working.
The pills stop
working. So it's hard. It's not an easy process.
Yeah. People think spiritual awakening means angels and unicorns and rainbows, and you're there going, oh, but really it's rocking in a corner for 3 months back and forth, sobbing, going,
my life has been a lie.
Yeah, this sucks, Yeah. But I will tell you this, when you snap over into that space, because we can only love another human being to the capacity that we love ourselves. We can only receive love to the capacity that we love ourselves. The only exception is our children, because they are an extension of who we hope to be. So imagine that if you have zero love for yourself, how do you receive love? How do you give it?
Yeah, I'm not worth it.
I'm not of value. How many times do you hear that? I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not. You know what? I was made by a God. I'm more than enough to be whoever I choose to be, as is every single person on this earth.
Absolutely.
And
I have some theories there. So,
all right, all of the ones with souls. I'm pretty sure that
we have some NPCs on this planet. So non-player characters, no souls.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's like no souls.
And there goes back to my testicle comment. But anyway,
exactly.
Yes. No, thank you guys so much for letting everybody know who you are. I think especially since what you have chosen to do professionally and the business that you own, I felt it was very important to get to know you ladies, considering what we're going to be talking about today. And that way there's some good cross-referencing there. Oh, absolutely. No, thank you for taking the
Yeah.
time to do that. Well, yeah, ladies, let's dive in here. I don't know where we're going to start, but I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
Let's roll.
Why don't we start with, I mean, like, there's been so many angel encounters, but let's start with.
Starting with me. Just kidding.
Yeah, maybe
And
just
millions.
cover maybe some of the more poignant ones.
So yeah, so the one that really sticks out in my mind, other than
It's
of
the
course,
troll. No.
oh, stop.
Do you know how he goes to Walmart to look for trolls?
Yeah, the troll. I'm going to talk about angels, so I can work my way up to the troll.
Yeah,
'cause
we're
that's
gonna. The
pretty-
troll is what you mentioned to me in when you reached out about Leo. You dropped this whole troll thing on me. I'm like, hold on a second, back the train up. What did you say about a troll? It's like, when are we gonna record? The troll is what Tina's real smart. She's like, I'm gonna put this big juicy worm on the end of this hook for Shannon, talking about Leo. Of course, it's about Leo. But boom, with the troll, I'm like, okay, when are we gonna talk? So yeah, we'll save the troll. Maybe he can be the coup de grace at the end. I don't know,
troll
but
fast because
yeah,
I have to
Juicy.
I have to work my way up to the troll
Yes.
because it's literally it's been almost
A year.
and it still freaks me
Oh, well,
out.
that's
I still
very
get
recent.
nervous.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, I still get nervous when I go to Walmart.
Oh,
So, but
good
I'm
God.
gonna
I thought
Not
you were
bashing
joking about
Walmart.
Walmart. Okay, anyway. Yeah, no, let's
No.
start so then we can get to the Walmart thing, the troll.
the troll. Okay, so one of the angel things that points out them like that is most prominent in my head, other than the dinner, is my husband and I, when so I guess it's been probably about 12 years ago, we lived in Texas out in the country, and we were driving. Our oldest was 12 and our youngest was like 7, and we were driving from our house to another town, which you take back roads, right? In Texas you take back roads to everything.
Country.
It was very hot that day. I mean, like in the hundreds, humidity horrible, and I'm just flying down this blacktop road because there's nothing out there and it's totally flat. You can see, as far as you can see miles around you. So all of a sudden we see this old man. He looked like he was like 150 years old, and he's just trucking down the road on foot. He's in boots, pressed jeans, a pressed shirt, cowboy hat. And I tell my husband, I'm like, we can't leave that old man out on the road. He must have broke down somewhere. I didn't see a car, but let's stop. So we turn around and I tell my daughters, I say, okay, kids, here's the thing. He's been out here walking. He's probably going to smell. Please don't say anything. And I was looking at my 7-year-old because she would have been the one that'd be like, why do you smell? You don't have a bathtub, And so we stop. And the first thing I noticed when he gets in the car was I smelled chocolate chip cookies. Now, like after so many of these experiences, at the time I didn't know this, but whenever I encounter an angel, I always smell chocolate chip cookies, like fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. So he gets in the car and we're driving. He says, I'm just right up the road, and we're driving. And he looks over at my oldest daughter and he said, you and that Prince Charming sure look good out there. And he was referring to my daughter's horse. She had just started barrel racing. And it took me aback a little bit. And then I went, oh, you know what? He's probably one of the old cowboys that go out there and watch the kids ride, and, no big deal. And then he leans over to my 7-year-old, my challenge, and he says, you sure give your mom a run for her money. And he said, it's okay. You're going to need that strength in your life, Again, it's just kind of like, okay, maybe he's seen her. She is a handful, out at these play dates where we did the horseback riding. So all of a sudden he points, he says, oh, that's me right there. So I pull into this driveway and I'm going to take him up. It's about a quarter of a mile up to his house. And he's like, no, right here is fine. Again, I want you to remember, you can see everything for miles. And so he gets out of the car and I roll my window down and he smiles at me and he said, they're so proud of you. You're going to change this world for the good someday. And I look over at my husband who's in the passenger seat and look back and he's gone. Gone. I mean, there's no way in hell that this man just ran a quarter of a mile up to his house or anywhere else. We literally get out of the car, look under the car, look around, and my girls
Did we hit him?
I was like, I wasn't even moving. He was gone. Nowhere. Absolutely. And my girls are just like, Mom, I think that was an angel. And I was like, what in the hell just happened? I mean, gone, absolutely just gone, and nowhere for him to go. And so that was kind of weird, kind of a file that one away.
Now,
And
is that when he said they're so proud of you, the they in the there, did he mean like the big they, like the above they?
at this point, I believe so because I got pretty much the same message. The second the dinner with an angel kind of got the same message that night too. So I do believe that he meant the collective upstairs.
Very cool. Yeah, go right ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're good. So Laura, you want to start on
Dinner with an angel?
Because it was myself, and we can actually tell you the exact date too. It was September 2nd, 2022. We were celebrating our 1 year anniversary of
Free will
healing.
Yeah.
So
we went out to my daughter's favorite place, Texas Roadhouse in Utah. And there was an older gentleman there. And if once you get to know Tina, you'll know she will talk to anybody. And
truth.
she saw this frail old man with his little walker, and he was surrounded and by some gentlemen that did not look very nice. We're not going to judge, but they looked shady. And so Tina walked over there, and I can't remember. You'll have to fill in what you said to him.
Well, so I when the old man walked in, we were in the very back of the where you're waiting to be seated. And so when he very first walked in, all we saw was him walk across the front of that opening.
Mhm.
And then the gentleman that Laura was referring to, they were sitting on seats, and one of them stood up.
That's what it was.
And then we see the old man sit down. He like comes from around the corner and sits down, and it just really touched my heart that this guy that, I mean, he's got teardrop tattoos, he's got neck tattoos, and was so sweet and beautiful that he stood up and let this sweet old man have his seat. So I got up and I went to the tattooed gentleman and I said, "Can I give you a hug?" He looked at me like, "You're not afraid of me?" And I was like, "Dude, unless you're a spider or a snake, I'm good." And so I hugged him. And when I hugged him, I said in his ear very quietly, I said, "You're a good human." And I kissed his cheek. And then when I turned around, all of his friends were kind of looking at me and I was like, "You guys want hugs too?" And they were like, "Yeah." And so I hugged each one of them. I think there was three of them. And I kept feeling, and I swear to you, it felt like feathers, like brushing across my butt. And the old man was behind me sitting on the seat. And so I turn around and he looks at me and he goes, "I want a hug." And I said, "I was just saving the best for last." And then so I leaned down, and as soon as I went to hug him, I smelled chocolate chip cookies. And at this point in my life, I know what that means. And so I just kind of like, I was a little shocked and I sat back and I saw his eyes. And every angel has what I call heavenly blue eyes, because it's a blue that's not on this earth, that I've never seen on this earth before. I just kind of smiled at him and he said, "We've got this." And I said, "Yes, we do." And I went to sit down and I started tearing up. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" And he's thinking maybe one of those guys had like
Something rude or
done
something.
something inappropriate or whatever. And I said, "No, that man smells like chocolate chip cookies." And instantly Lance and her husband Laura and her husband Lance, instantly, like, they stop and turn and look at me and they're like, chocolate chip cookies, because they know what that means too for me, right? And I was like, "Yeah." And right about that time they called us.
They called us to eat. Yeah.
And
And he stopped Terry. Terry has this big tattoo.
Is a Betsy Ross flag, and it says "We the People" on his forearm.
Yeah, and you'll have to fill in what he said to him because that.
Yeah, so he when we were walking by to go to our seat, he touched my husband's arm. My husband turned around and he said, "You're a good American, son." My husband did 20 years in the military. And it was very interesting, the wording, because I had just whispered in that young man's ear, "You're a good human." He said, "You're a good American, son." Terry said, "I try, sir." And he said, "Son, all we can do is try. You're doing a great job and you're a good American." Mm-hmm. And my husband, as we were walking away from him, my husband turns around and looks at me and he goes, "The eyes." And I said, I told you, chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, so they had us stand in a little square, and Terry was talking about what the man had said, and I said, well, is he alone? And they were like, I think so. I was like, well, let's invite him to sit at our table then. Because I was like, if this is an angel, I want to meet him. I meet the man. So Terry, her husband, went over and asked, and he agreed. I was like, wow. First, I was like shocked that, he's going to come and eat with some strangers. And he comes with his little walker, and he sits at the end. We were in a booth, and they set him up at the end of the booth, and we all order our meals. He doesn't touch any of it. He boxes it up. So
at the end of the meal,
he boxes that up. That was odd. And he kept looking at my daughter and just welling up in tears. Now, my daughter is beautiful, but I'm not going to say
she's very
tear worthy, but
she is very spiritually, very, very. Yeah, she's very special.
Very, very. And he kept looking and tearing up and saying, she's our future, or they are our future, right?
Well, he kept saying she's the future.
She's the future.
Which is interesting because obviously this man doesn't know this, but that is how whenever I'm speaking to Father about Emma, that is what was referred to her as the future. So the fact that he kept saying she's the future, it was very interesting to us.
Very interesting. And he was just the sweet. He gave us this whole backstory, which I made diligent notes of, because again, eternal student, I'm like, I'm going to go check all this out, right? And my little investigative mind. Tina, at one point, he was talking, I can't remember what he was talking about, and Tina at that time was not a big fan of going out into the crowd and going out into public. She made mention of it, and he looked over and very sarcastically said, you think so?
Well, it was very interesting because he kept saying, we need to go out and show our light to the humans, not to people. He kept saying to the humans. We need to go show our light to the humans. And I said, I really struggle with that, like large crowds. And keep in mind, all this man has seen is me be hugging strangers, being very kind and very open.
Yeah, very social.
And I said, I do struggle a bit with that. And he just smiles and he goes, you think? And literally everybody at the table like puts their fork down and looks at me and then looks at him like, how the hell would you know that? And I just looked at him and I said, you have Father's eyes. And he just smiled, and randomly his walker that was behind him just fell over. Distraction. Yeah. And at one point, remember, he said, because there was 5 of us plus him, and he said something along the lines of, he said, sitting here talking to you guys, I would think that the 5 of you were the angel. And we all just looked at him, and I'm like, I think you just called yourself out. And he just smiled and changed the subject.
He talked a lot about his wife who was deceased, and gave us, like I said, a full backstory. Just the sweetest man. I mean, like, I wanted to take him.
Yeah. So we're all done eating. He packages up all of his food that he didn't eat.
And he pushed it around his plate.
But he never ate it. He's taken it to some homeless person. So we help him because, he's bent over this walker like he can't stand it.
Like, you allowed this man to drive himself to Texas Roadhouse. What is wrong? His keys need to be taken away.
And so we help him get his stuff in the car and everything. And then because he is, so bent over, I was helping him get into the car, into the driver's seat. And I had like my arm like up underneath his armpit, trying to help him get in. And he as he's getting in, it like pulls me in with him, and so I'm trying to extract myself from him so I can get off of the man's lap. It's a little tacky, we just met. And anyway, so he grabs my arm and he said, they're so proud of you. You've done everything they've asked. And he said, the fuse is already lit. Stop trying to put it out. Just let the explosion happen. Just be prepared. And I just smiled and said, thank you.
Yeah. And we had exchanged phone numbers because I was like, I'm going to follow up with this gentleman. And
wait, before you go there, so Laura's husband, Lance, I love you, Lance, he is very, very logical. He's very knowledge. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He has to touch it, feel it, see it before he believes it. There is no If you tell him a story, he's going to think of 20 ways that you could have found that information without, And anyway, so we shut the door, and his name was Rich, and he drives away, and Laura's husband looks at me and he goes, "We just ate dinner with an effing angel." And I was like, yeah, we did. But for him to feel that was big.
That was a validation, yeah.
So Laura's going to tell you the story of, because when I say she grilled him, she got his phone number, she got the names of his children,
his ex-wife, when she died.
Everything. She could be a cop.
Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure he made it home safe, because I'm like, this man, he can't drive. And the next morning I text him and no response. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the man had an accident and died, right? And I got on the internet, beautiful internet, love-hate relationship. I investigated everything he said, children's names, wife name. I knew the date she died. I knew where she died. No record anywhere
of anything. Not his name, his number was just.
Yeah, and I figured even with, because I sent him the phone and I called him, and I thought, well, maybe one of his children someday finds his phone and responds like, "Hey, my dad passed away," or nothing. No response from the children. No, it was
no record that anybody had an accident and died.
No record that he exists. I'm like on Ancestry.com, like looking for his birth certificate. Nothing.
Welcome to my world, Shannon.
Hey, at least you don't get bored. Like I said, that's pretty amazing. Like, I am a PI, let me do my thing. Now, his not eating situation, can I just talk about that for a second? So I know that you said, he is an angel after all, so he's possibly packaging up the food to take it to a homeless person. But is there a flip side to that possibly, where there's an angel on earth? Is that an attribute of theirs somehow, or a telltale sign, since he's not eating?
Yeah, so that's what we envision, or what we've witnessed actually, is sort of like a temporary possession, if you want to call it, not in a Catholic church, I gotta do an exorcism on you. It's sort of a different consciousness comes into place and sort of takes over the body type thing.
Oh, so he's not in that form all the time. He's not in that body or do we call them it? What do we call it? Is it an it? An angel? A he, a she?
I just refer to them as angels. Yeah. That's just kind of my...
Because you have the ones that, like Tina's first story, where they just literally disappear into thin air. And it's like, okay, that was more of a, energetic vibration that took form of a human, if you want to get deep into it, right? And they can just like they poofed in, they poof out.
Right.
We believe with Rich that it was sort of like a temporary...
He took over that person's... Because truly, this man should not be driving. Well, I'm telling you, this man should not have been driving.
No reflexes, no nothing. We were sort of like, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm good to drive."
Doesn't Texas retest people? My God.
Yeah.
The one on the side of the road that you let into the car, did that one also have these crazy ice blue eyes that seemed unnatural?
Yes. I didn't realize it at the time, and I didn't look him in the eye until he spoke to me at the very end, but yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so chocolate chip cookies and unnaturally blue eyes. And the thought
chocolate chip cookies is a Tina thing, so don't go out there smelling everybody. Nestle Toll House. I personally don't smell that. That's her sign.
The color of the eyes it's very, once you've seen it, you will always recognize it. And it's, eyes are the windows to the soul. Truly, honestly. And it is, when you look into their eyes, it is a feeling of unconditional love that doesn't exist on this earth. And you just know.
PSA, don't go patting people's pockets down if you happen to smell chocolate chip cookies, because you might end up in jail or punched in the face. You just let it go. If you smell the chocolate chip cookies, maybe you've run into an angel. Well, that is so cool. I've heard other story, like my Robert episode, where the face was changing and he wasn't eating for the whole weekend and he didn't have any identification, but my guest felt like it was more of a vampiric kind of a thing, or something like a shapeshifter. But maybe it's something the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and the thing is that's the key is, I was saying earlier, the human body cannot lie. And so if you make eye contact with someone, like really look into their eyes and you feel dread or you feel sick, run.
Yeah.
If you feel
Trust your body.
peace and love and joy, it's probably an angel or something that has been sent to help guide you to a happier
In that
place.
moment, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's all about, I mean, and everybody's like, well, how do you do it? And it's literally, and it's not easy. It's being present with every person.
Yeah.
Every person is important. They're put in your path at that moment for a reason. And so bring awareness to it, like, I'm smelling chocolate chip cookies while I'm around this guy, and then compare that, what happened in that
Right.
encounter. And because we all move so quickly, and I'm guilty of it as well, of just moving quickly through life. Oh, hey, hi, how are you? And move on, versus that real awareness and being present for that other person.
You'll see things that you never knew existed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where are we going next, ladies?
Let's go.
I have a one
Oh, no.
actually.
Laura, you
When
go.
I was on my way back from Vegas just the other day.
Ooh. Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and it's short. So I was coming back from Texas from visiting my son, and my mother was in the car with me. She came, and my daughter was with me, and it was very late. All the flights delayed, of course. Coming back from Vegas, I don't know if you've driven from Vegas to St. George. There's like a big gorge, and so it's going through the mountains. There was nobody, pitch black, nobody coming either way. And behind me, I see this one light, and it was pretty high. I was like, oh, it's probably just a motorcycle behind me, but it was pretty high off the ground. It was like higher than than the back of my car. And I'm like, okay, that's a really tall motorcycle, if so. And it was just a white light with yellow around it, and the light was sort of getting bigger. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm to keep looking in my rear view mirror. I'm like, what is this? What is this? And finally, I'm like, I'm going to slow down and turn around. And I do that, and the light just veers off the right. And I'm thinking, oh, I went around a bend without noticing. And so I'm telling my mom, I was like, okay, you turn around and keep your eyes and look for this light that should be coming around the corner there. Nothing ever showed up. And at the same time, my radio just randomly changes. I had it set on my playlist, and it changes playlists on my phone. So I'm still debating what it was. I don't know if it
And there are
was.
no turn,
Yeah.
Shannon, I know you said you've come to St. George. That gorge, there are no exits.
There's nowhere to
So
go.
it's not like
Yeah, if it was a vehicle,
They-
there's just absolutely nowhere to go.
Yeah, so it's not like they got off an exit. There was
No.
no, rest stop or anything. It was just this light following me for a bit. It didn't feel menacing, but it was what we would call a UFO because it was unidentified, right? So, but it was a cool experience. I don't know why they were following me, but
That's very Close
happens.
Encounters of the Third Kind with the radio situation too.
yeah. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, come take me.
Right? Hey, I'm with you.
She's not
I'm the lady
crazy.
on the top of the tower, and it didn't end up well for her in ID4, but I'm definitely the one with the sign. Like, well, I'm ready. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Who knows if they're
just
gonna
the
support?
opposite. I am you know what? Go find Laura. She'll be fine. She'll like it. Go ahead. I didn't experience as a child. And so ever since then, it just freaks me out.
Oh.
It wasn't a pleasant experience.
Oh, see, yeah, I was just talking, the woman I was telling you that I was speaking with yesterday, the first part of her experiences will be out, yes, it is Thursday, tonight. She had experiences when she was 4, or I should say, like a big experience when she was 4, but it was positive. And we were having a whole big discussion about the dichotomy between those who have the good experiences versus the ones that have the bad experiences. So that is not a good thing to go through in any way, shape, or form. Very violating.
Yeah. Mine was more scary. Yeah. Like I don't feel like I was taken anywhere. But a human being who was a family member showed like their whole face, everything changed into something that wasn't human. It was like I was fighting to get away from them. And it was almost like their mask slipped or something along those lines.
But you're calling it alien. I think that was more
It
demon type
and that is
Thing
possible,
versus
but it
alien.
looked very alien-esque.
You're judging.
Alien judger.
Be nice of the
So,
alien / demon / whatever it is thing, No,
and let me just tell you, Shannon, here at Free Will Healing, we literally will have people walk in the door and be like, there's something wrong with me and I don't know what it is, and they'll start listing, I'm exhausted all the time, I'm angry all the time, I can't taste food, I can't, well, and I know you're thinking, oh, COVID, but we have literally, because we literally have a team that extracts demons.
It's my favorite part.
It's one of my favorites too.
Not that I wish anybody to have.
No, but we had this family bring a Hispanic family brought in. She was 9,
Mm-hmm.
and she was completely comatose. Like she was It was like a walking zombie.
Mm-hmm.
She was walking, but she
It was
wouldn't.
a shell.
Yeah, she wouldn't open her eye. I did a sternum rub. I don't know if you know what that is. I did a sternum rub on this kid. This is what they do to bring people back to life,
Mhm.
Yeah, when you're doing CPR,
Painful.
you do that.
Yeah, she didn't even flinch.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, and so I think that night there was like 4 of us because it was
That's 3 of us.
it was me, you, Salvador. Oh, that was it?
Mhm.
Okay. Anyways, and it took probably about 45 minutes, which usually it's like 10 minutes, it took like 45 minutes. And we knew when it released, it was like black tar coming out of her mouth, not physically,
Yeah.
but like I could feel it like pouring into my hand, and it was horrific. And all of a sudden she just opened her eyes and started crying and looking around, and like her mom and her grandmother, or her dad and her grandmother, were standing right there. And I was like motioning to them. I'm like, come on, because before we said don't touch her until we're done. And so I'm motioning, like, come over here and everything. And so she calms down, and then she looks around the room. She goes, are we in a hotel? And I'm like, no, baby, this is our offices. And she was like, how did I get here? And that was probably the most intense one that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And normally we don't let family come in, but it was a child, it was a minor. So
yes, we don't do minors alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. I'm performing all this, and at the same time I'm trying to debunk it, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I will do this. I'm calling in my guides, my angels. Let's do this. But either this girl should have won an Oscar, or the biggest accolade for acting, or she
literally has no nerve endings in her sternum, because
one or the other.
And that's why I did the sternum rub, because I'm like, there's no way. I'd never seen anything like it.
From it.
I've never seen anything like that before. And especially in a child, and I was like, okay, is she just trying to get attention? Because we have that. We have people come in and say, oh, I have a demon attached to me, blah, and it's just,
it's attention seeking.
They want attention, or they, just are trying anything they can to not look at their emotional trauma. Right. And so,
yes, I must be possessed.
Yeah. And we see this on a weekly basis. So, we've kind of gotten pretty good at spotting it. And so the girl it was like nothing I'd ever seen. And so that's why I did the sternum rub. And when she didn't flinch, I just looked at Laura like,
yeah,
okay, let's call in every single guide and angel we got, because this is going to be a tough one. And the family paid us in mangoes.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Except that they were not good. Rotten.
Oh.
I gave Laura my mango. I don't eat mangoes, so I gave Laura my mango.
Well, how long had this young person had this attachment / possession going on?
They said that she had been acting weird for about 3 months, and that she had just been getting increasingly worse and worse and worse, and that she would just randomly get scared and start crying, and that she would be really mean sometimes, and that she would, I can't remember, did they say that she would talk in tongues? Didn't they say
Not that I
No,
God, yeah. Any talking in tongues, I'm like, peace out, see ya. Like, that's so freaky to me. How old was she?
9 years old, yeah.
So that, it's not impossible. That's not the normal age for, starting to get the lady time and all that, because people just automatically go, well, it's lady time for this young person, so that's why she's a little asshole and all this. But that's probably not the case at 9.
Yeah, no, it is unusual. We don't normally see children that are, because that was a full possession. That was because I would say probably 80% of the people you look around, they have some kind of a negative or demonic attachment. It's not like the movies where, they start spitting pea green soup and their head spins around. It's not like that. It's basically its purpose is they don't have conscious thought. It's not like it's going to pop up and go, my name is George. It's not like that. It is a energy that is attached to you, just basically feeding on the energy that we naturally produce, right? Our divine spirit is made of energy, and we produce energy so our body can run. Anything like that doesn't have a physical, I call the physical body like a gas tank, right? So we generate it and we store it in our body. Well, they don't have a physical gas tank. They don't have an ability to generate it. So
it's like Monsters Inc. They got to go get it somewhere else.
That's right. They got to go get the screams.
Yeah.
But so it's more like that, where it's just like a host. You're the host for a parasite, making the environment so uncomfortable that they're willing to release their hold on feeding is kind of the key. And it comes down to free will, and that's, I think, what was so hard with the girl, because she was in a full possession where she had no voice. It wouldn't let her speak. And so at one point we just started having her cough, continuing to cough and cough and cough and cough. And then because she couldn't speak, and then finally it was almost like she coughed it out. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting. But you know what? Another day in life and free will healing.
Another interesting conversation over dinner with the husbands.
There you go. Oh, and we go home. We're like, you're not going to believe. Actually, most of the time, I don't even say anything when I go home, because it's so normal now that it's just like.
Yeah, my husband's like, you never told me that. I was like, oh.
Whoops. See? Like that? What do you mean you created an energetic realm that took you into the heavens? Oh, I forgot to tell you about that.
He's like, honey, how many demons did you clear today? Oh, a couple. No big deal.
We had a lady a couple weeks ago had 6. It was insane. There was another one. And it's really crazy, because when they come in, you'll literally see like their eyes will be like sunken in, and they'll have like black circles under their eyes. Their skin is very dull. Their eyes are very dull. And when they leave, it's like they just had a facial and eye drops. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, they look like a whole different person. And most of the time they're sobbing, going, oh my gosh.
Because their light is back.
Yeah, because they're no longer sharing their light, if you will,
darkness,
with it's not being fed upon anymore, and they're regenerating for themselves.
So with the culmination and this woman that had the 6 within her, is the culmination the same as the 9-year-old girl, where you essentially, you don't see it, but you feel this black tarry substance coming out of her mouth? Is everyone the same when things are cleared up?
No, everyone's different. For her, it was different because she was conscious and able to verbally communicate. So, I have like a mantra that I'll have them say, which is, I choose to release this. It no longer serves me. With her, I think we did have her do cough at the end, because the thing is that because of free will, right? The one thing God promised us was free will. We can't take anything out of her. So we basically we push it up into the throat as far as we can. And at that point, it's really,
we have them speak it.
It's up to them. And so, but Laura and I and Salvador and Valdez, of course, Pleiadian, and I suspect Howie, he's brand new, hasn't even moved into his office yet. But it's like we can feel it in there. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Have you guys ever, and John Paul's going to kill me if I don't get this term right. In terms of a possession, I forget if it's called an apport or it's not a manifestation. I think it's an apport, where something will manifest itself in the mouth, nails, glass, things like that. He's talked about that in cases of possession. Have you guys ever seen anything like that when you're doing these quote unquote clearings?
seen it in the mouth personally. I know people, we feel like energetic thorns, and
Yeah, I've had people say, like, tell me that there's like that there's mucus or there's tar or like that there's something.
Yeah.
It felt like at the back of their throat, like there's a lump that they can't get out.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting because once they do, I feel it hit my hand. When they're coughing, I will feel it hit my hand because I have my hand, like not over their mouth, but in front of their mouth to just kind of pull that energy out. I will feel it hit me. And I can't remember which one it was. Was it the little
I think it
girl?
was a little girl that burned.
When it came out, I had a burn in my hand for like a week.
Wow.
I mean, it was a visible burn and it hurt. Like, I mean, I could feel it burning when it came out. And I visibly had a burn on my hand that and I heal extremely fast. So the fact that it was there for a week was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's different, like, for me personally, actually, just last week I had, and it wasn't a possession, but all week I was tasting sand in my mouth. And as we know, St. George is a very dusty area, but we had rain and snow. And it just, I had that taste of sand, and it was scratching my throat, and I could, my side and my back. It was just like a physical manifestation. And she took me through this like past life meditation. And what came through was, and I don't know if it was an imprint or one of my past lives, I had been stabbed and betrayed and left for dead and buried. And I could taste that sand, and it started like almost like choking me as I'm doing this regression. And so I had to start coughing, and I could feel like that sand just coming up and scraping my mouth, and until I was able to release this like I said, I don't know if imprint or a past life, and sort of manifesting, raising her from the dead and sending her into the light, and it literally just went away. So that is what I've tasted in my mouth, right? I haven't had thorns or glass or anything, but just that physical manifestation. And the way the energy is going on in the world, and if you believe in ascension and all of that, it's trying to get our souls and our bodies to heal. But with that comes a lot of our past life regression, our ancestral stuff that needs to be cleared for all of us, for all beings of light to be able to ascend. And I think at this point that, and I'll call it they, are trying to get us to wake up, and they're pushing this through quick. And they're like, okay, how can I bother Laura? And for me to pay attention to something, it has to be physical.
Mm-hmm.
If it's emotional or spiritual, I'm like, I can handle this. But if it's physical, it really pisses me off, and I have to get to the point of it. And so I took that manifestation of that sand in my mouth was bothering me, and I've got to figure this out. If not, I would have just let it probably float by. And so, I've heard similar accounts with many other people, a lot of forums I follow and pages of just these physical manifestations of helping us heal and clear in order to be able to be part of this ascension.
The interesting thing about it is, so I was in New York, and when this was going on with Laura, I had my own physical issues, and I'm texting her going, you're not going to believe this, that my shoulder completely locked up today, and blah, 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 and she's like, yeah, I can believe that because this is what happened to me. And, and she was like, this is what I found. So, look inside and see if there's something you need to release. And, it was like our second day in New York. And I was like, I don't want to be in a bed, crying with pain. And so I looked at it and I was like, okay, help me see whatever this is so I can get rid of it. And it like popped into my head and it was gone. And my shoulder relaxed and I was fine. We went on having a great time.
Well, Tina, you emailed me a photo of an ornament, and I'm assuming that it is Santa Claus time.
Yeah, I emailed it to you so that you would have it. So my youngest daughter, who's 22 now, we had moved to this small town in Washington. My husband was in the military, and there was this girl who bullied my daughter horribly. I mean, her first day home on the bus, she had a huge bruise and was sobbing. And I said, baby, what happened? She said, this girl was beating up this other girl. And, we were from Texas. You always stand up for people in Texas, And so I told her to stop it. And she said she stood up and she was twice my size. And her and the girl she was beating up jumped over the seat and started beating me up. I was like, well, that's not very neighborly. That went on for about a year and a half. And then this girl eventually sexually assaulted my daughter at school. It was a horrific experience. And so my daughter responded very classic sexual assault symptoms of rage. And she took all of that rage out on me. Eventually, years later, she told me that it was because she knew I was the one person that would never give up on her. But at the time, all I knew was, I don't know why you're so mad at me. And one day it was so bad, I got up and I left the house. And I mean, it was bad. Like, we're going to call the police bad. I got up and I left the house and I drove to a town that was about an hour away. It was the closest place for the mall. And so I was walking around the mall. There sat a mall Santa in his little chair and everything. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go sit on Santa's lap. I need something happy in my life. And so I go and I sit on Santa's lap and he says, young lady, what would you like for Christmas this year? And I just burst out sobbing. I mean, just sobbing. He turns to me and he hugs me and he whispers in my ear, Sydney's going to be just fine. I've sent her a special gift this year. There's no way that this man knows my daughter. Because if I knew somebody who looked like Santa, promise you, like, he would be at the top of the list of my contacts. I love Santa.
Yeah.
Always have. And so, but it shocked me. And I kind of sat back a little bit and looked at him. And he just smiled. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I got up and left because it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And it's not like what happened to my daughter was like news. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't any media, or there was no way this man would know. So I left and I went home and I told my husband and my daughter, and both of them laughed at me, right? About a couple weeks later, we got a dog for my daughter, a service dog for my daughter. And we, at the time, were military. We didn't have the money for a service dog. But we were going to get her a dog, and we drove all around everywhere. And she kept saying, Mom, how will I know? And I said, you'll just know. And so the very last place we went, obviously, because we got the dog, so it would be the last place, but it was like 10 after 5, and she had met every dog in the place, and none of them were, tickling her fancy. And I got this prompting, go look one more time. And so I went into the back and I looked one more time, and there was this dirty, mangy looking dog. I made eye contact with this dog and I knew this was the one. And so I went and told the lady, I said, this one. And she's like, that one? And I'm, yes. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm positive. So she takes the dog into the room and he breaks the leash getting to my daughter and starts licking her face and loving on her. And she's like, this is the one. And my husband is sitting there horrified because, his OCD with the dog hair and the dirt. And he was like, are you sure, honey? We can look for more. We can come back tomorrow. And she's like, no, this is the one. And so he was 7 years old. So we paid $45 for him. And as we were leaving, the woman pulled me aside because I kind of told her why we were getting a dog for our daughter. And she said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but that's a fully trained service dog.
Oh, wow.
And he had been abused, so we can't repurpose him as a service dog. She said, as a matter of fact, we were probably going to put him down if he didn't get adopted within the next 24 hours. And I was like, whoa, okay, sure, lady, whatever you say. So we leave and we start noticing that when she starts getting upset, we start noticing him going over and calming her down, like pulling her down to the ground. And, and so we took him to a trainer and we paid for an hour of his time, told him the story. The trainer comes back and he says, I think he'd had him out there for like 10 minutes and we paid for an hour. And he said, I can't teach this dog anything. I'm like, oh, is he stupid? He's like, no, that's a $50,000 dog. He is a fully trained service dog. He said, I can take the rest of the hour and teach your daughter how to be his handler. He said, this dog was created for her. And my husband and I were just kind of like, whew, okay, goosebumps everywhere. So the year goes through and everything. She's going back to school because, she was assaulted at school. So that was her trigger. And so being able to take this dog to school with her and everything, she's starting to thrive. And it's getting close to Christmas again. And she says, Mom, I want to go meet that Santa. And I said, okay, let's go. And so, and I have a picture of me and her and the dog and Santa too. I'll send to you as well. So we went to the mall, and, she has her service dog. There's this big, huge, long line of people to get to Santa. He's not even there. He's on his lunch break. And I look at my daughter and I'm like, baby, I really don't want to wait in this line. And she's like, yeah, me either. Because, she's got the dog. These are kids. She's going to have to be, don't touch, don't touch. So we turn to leave, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a flash of red and white. And I turn, and here comes Santa with his entourage of elves. He's not walking towards his chair. He's walking directly towards me and my daughter, which are the opposite way of where he's supposed to go in, where all these people are waiting. And he walks right up to me and he smiles and he says, hello again. And he said, I told you she'd be fine. And then he turns to Sydney and he puts his hands behind his back, and he's a very tall man, and he leans down so that he's like on her level. And he says, I see you got my gift. You and Buster seem to be getting along famously. Now, keep in mind, service dogs, you don't put their name on their collar anywhere. How the hell does this dog or this guy know that the dog's name is Buster? Sydney, who had not allowed anyone to touch her in over a year, said, Santa, can I hug you? And of course, now I'm in tears. And he says, of course, honey. And so she hugs him, and she looks at me and she's pointing at him and she's whispering, he knew Buster's name. And I was like, I'm sobbing, and so he comes to me after he's done talking to her, and he comes to me and he hugs me. And I said, thank you. You helped me through one of the most horrific experiences of my life. And he said, my child, did you not know? The spirit of Christmas is always in at least one. This will be my last year, but we will meet again. I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know what all that means, but thank you. And he went off to do his job. And that year he died the day after Christmas. So now I want you to fast forward 6 years. That was in Tacoma, Washington. So 6 years later, I'm in St. George, Utah. Before we started Free Will Healing, I think it was even before Laura got here. Mm-hmm. It was our first Christmas here in St. George. And I walk into the office that I was working at, and the receptionist says, Tina, have you met Scott? I said, I don't believe so. And I look over, I make eye contact, and it's Santa. It's not the same body. It's shorter, it's rounder, but it's his eyes. The same heavenly blue eyes. And I just start sobbing, and I walk over and I sit down next to him, and I said, can I tell you a story? And he said, yes. And so I tell him the whole story. And he says to me when I get done, he said, was that the day after Christmas 2014? And I said, yes. How did you know that? And he said, because that was the day that God asked me to start growing my beard. And I just went, okay. So that night I went home. I was telling my husband about it, and he wasn't nearly as exuberant about it as I was. And I was very emotional, and we had a little tiff. So I slept on the couch, and we already had our Christmas tree up, and nobody touches my Christmas tree. Like, I'm crazy about it, ever since I met Santa. And anyway, so the next morning I get up. We have an ornament that says Mason, our last name. It always goes in the same spot. And I'm walking by the tree, and I see that ornament that I sent you the picture of. The Mason one is gone, and there sat the Santa one. And I went and woke my husband up, and I was like, did you put this on the tree? And he's like, I don't touch your tree. I took a picture of it, sent it to both my girls who lived in other states. And I said, do you guys remember this ornament? They're like, Mom, nobody touches your tree. And I know every ornament on that tree and where it came from and what it meant. I had never seen it. And when I looked at it, it looked just like Scott.
And what about the Mason ornament? Did that ever show back up?
It was at the back of the tree. So when people say, I have actually in my office, I have a big, huge picture or a statue. Mm-hmm. It's probably about 4 feet tall of Santa, and it stays there all year round. And people say, oh, that's cool, Santa. I'm like, yeah, I've met him 3 times. And they're like, Yeah, right. I'm like, no, I've met him 3 times. It's not the same body, but it's the same spirit. It's the same energy of just beautiful, unconditional love.
I can't imagine going to a random mall Santa and he knows your daughter's name, and then subsequently there's this whole situation going on, and then he knows the dog's name. That's stunning.
It was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. And when we went to see Santa, right? When my daughter and I went, he did have us come and take a picture with him. And so I'll send you a photo of that because she is no longer a minor. So um, I can send you that picture. But I have a picture of him and I and Sydney and the dog.
Now, did the heavenly blue eyes, did those translate over photographs?
You know what? I'm not really positive. I'm going to find the picture and I will let you know. I know that I sent because Lance and Laura do a lot of movie. I'll let her explain.
Yeah, we do a lot of short films for like film festivals, film competitions. So we write and film and edit and do all the stuff. So we were going to do the Christmas story is going to be one of our future shorts.
So yeah, so I had found the picture for him so that I could send it over to him. So I will find that picture and send it over to you.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a picture. It's myself and Sydney and the dog and Santa.
I love that. I just love that the whole spirit of Christmas / Santa thing. Yes.
So you want to talk about the troll now?
Oh yes.
Troll incoming. All right. So I guess I'll tell you in order of like how it happened to me, and then when because Laura comes into it obviously, and then she can tell her part of it.
Okay.
So we were actually having a barbecue at my house for one of our practitioners for his birthday. I think it was his 70th birthday or something like that. Both of us needed to go to the store and get some things, but I had gone. I didn't know. I had no idea when Laura was going or anything. Yeah. So I had gone, and I walked in, and my head is in 75 other places, and I'm just walking around, and you don't know this about me, but I'm like one of the nicest humans on this earth. I'm like, I just always see the beauty in people. It takes a lot for me to dislike someone. Let's put it that way. And or to be unkind in any way. And so I'm walking along with my cart, and I see this man, and he has his back to me, and he's probably maybe 4 feet tall ish. And he's talking to another man. And in my head, I instantly heard the word troll. And I went to chastise myself of like, what is wrong with you? That's hateful. But as soon as the word troll came into my head, the man turned around like I said it out loud, and he heard me. And I instantly like dropped my eyes because I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, did I say that out loud? That's really weird. Okay. And so I kept walking because I'm going towards them. So I kept walking when there was a very large woman and a baby. The baby was in the cart. Well, I say baby, she was for what, 2-ish, 18 months. Mm-hmm. And a very large lady was holding onto the cart, and they were like kind of right there.
By large, we mean she was like 6 foot tall.
Yeah, she was very like way taller than me and heavy set. And so when I was walking by and I looked at the baby because I love kids, and this baby looked like somebody had like spritzed her face with water and then just packed dust on her face. And it just like nothing else looked dirty, just her face. And she looked at me with just this really curious look, like I fascinated her in some way, And in my head, again, I was like, wash your child's face. What's wrong with you? And then I was like, Tina, oh my gosh, what is your issue? You know what I mean? Leave these people alone. So I just kept walking, and I went to the light bulb aisle. I didn't break my stride. I didn't, because I knew exactly where I was going. So I grab the light bulb I need. I turn, I come back out of the aisle, and I almost run into somebody with my cart. And so, of course, I look up because of the fact that I almost hit somebody, and it was the troll. I shit you not, the troll. His eyes, I looked him in the eyes because, that's kind of how I gauge people of like, what do I feel from them? And his eyes, the pupils were like diamonds, like almost like a cat. And then the mucus of the eyes blinked sideways. And it scared the shit out of me. And I went like that. And he smiled and he had these jagged teeth, like, I don't, what,
Like when they whittle them down to do veneers.
yeah, like all vampire teeth or something. Scared the hell out of me. So I took off running in Walmart with my shopping
I would
cart.
love to see camera footage of this.
I'm so
Oh,
glad
it's
I have
somewhere.
never seen it. And so I'm running and I can hear him because he had cowboy boots on. I could hear his the cowboy boots behind me running. And I kept hearing this like that. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's what happened. Anyways, so, and everybody is staring at me. Like, why is this wild lady running through Walmart like a bat out of hell with her cart? It was almost like they didn't see him or hear him. Because let me tell you, if I saw that going on, I'd be looking at the troll running after her. So I instantly, like, I get up to the main aisle, I turn, I'm out now. Like, I'm going. Like, I'm not staying at Walmart anymore because there's a troll here. And so I go to the self-checkout and I'm like texting Lauren. I'm like, emergency, I need to talk to you like immediately. And so she calls me and I'm like, you're not going to believe this shit. I just saw a troll. And she says to me, and I quote, does he have on a green t-shirt, jean shorts, and cowboy boots? And I went, how the hell would you know that? And she said, because he was standing by my car waiting for me when I came out. I was just there 30 minutes ago. So I'll let her tell you about her experience.
Yeah, so I was leaving Walmart and I go up to my car and I'm surveillance, right? I'm like, who's by my car? Is this dangerous? Is it safe? And I see this very small man, and it looked awkward because he had on these little shorts and cowboy boots. And
his wee little boots.
his wee little boots. And we're from Texas, so we're used to cowboy boots, but that just didn't look right. And then I see this Amazonian woman, with him. She's tall and huge, and the little baby in the cart. And I'm not making eye contact because I'm like, I don't want anybody talking to me. I'm trying to.
Which is really unusual for her because she usually makes eye contact so that people know not to mess with her.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm avoiding these people. And they're just hanging around there. They have the little baby in the cart. And the woman keeps repeating, oh, your face is so dirty. Your face is so dirty. And I'm to myself thinking, well, then we clean it. And she just keeps repeating that over and over. And I have a Free Will Healing, sticker on a side window of my car. And I'm loading my groceries. I'm like, and they're just hanging around there. I'm like, okay, you got your baby in the cart. Why are you hanging around? What's going on here? Again, I make no contact and I close my trunk and I'm getting in my car and I hear this like squealy voice and he reads my sticker and he's like, Free Will Healing. And I'm like, that's just weird. Y'all move along.
And she told me that before I told her about the like running behind me, making that weird noise.
Noise.
And she says that. She's like, and he goes, Free Will Healing. And I was like, oh. Like, stay on the phone with me till I get out to the car.
Yeah. And so I got in my car and I'm like, I have, dash cam in the front and camera in the back. And I'm like, God, I hope this is picking up these people next to me. And unfortunately, I hadn't turned my car on yet, so it didn't pick them up. But I knew that just the energy of it was very off. And I feel like when we see things, it's not like everybody can see this, and people will probably call us crazy, and that's fine. I don't really care. There's a veil on this planet of things, of bad things, of good things, and there's, like I said, there's humans on this planet that aren't human. They could be aliens or trolls or whatever. We believe all of these beings and things exist somewhere out there in some realm, and we feel, as all this ascension and awakening is happening, that this veil is thinning, and people that are if you want to call it, not of this world, or visible to people that are sensitive to it. Because I could be seeing it and the person next to me is going, what?
Yeah.
And I don't do any kind of recreational drugs or prescribed. So I firmly believe that this is what is happening.
That's pretty awesome. Actually, the shared experience with the troll. I mean, not that you guys are having the greatest time and you're like, thanks. Yeah, no, wasn't that great? Couple things.
Go ahead.
Because it seems like he saw the sticker, or maybe God knows what he was, really. I mean, what else do you call him but a troll, right? But he could sense what the work that you guys do. So essentially, he was interested, or maybe targeted is too strong of a word, I don't know. But he was at least interested in you two because of the work that you do, right?
I'm going to say targeted because the energy of it wasn't...
Help me.
Yeah, it wasn't curiosity. It was when he smiled, he knew that I saw his eyes blink sideways. He smiled to scare me. He wanted me to see those teeth. The chasing behind me, it wasn't to ask me about my potato salad recipe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
He was trying to scare me.
He's like, I smell like chocolate chip cookies.
He's like,
You're like
I smell
that.
like chocolate chip cookies.
The hell you do? I know you don't smell like no chocolate chip
Right.
cookies.
Just, we see so many fun and beautiful things. We do get what's called like spiritually attacked. There's dark things that come to us as well. That
We just had a vulture infestation.
yeah, that are, I think, is sort of sent to scare. Like, don't shine your light. We can still brighter you shine. It's like a lighthouse, right? You can see a lighthouse from miles away. And I believe everybody here, not just Tina and I, everybody here at Free Will Healing shines so freaking bright.
And we're all
that
together.
Darkness is attracted. They're like, oh, what's going on over here?
There's a buffet.
Yeah, there's a buffet. So we get equally shown, the ugliness of the world.
Well, I'm coming back to the vulture infestation, by the way. But okay, last thing about this
Just everything. You're
handsome
good.
gentleman,
Yes.
because it does in fact seem like nobody else saw this little homie. Because as you
No.
say, you are running from a 4-foot tall man with pupils and eyes that do different things and sharp teeth
Squealing. I mean, he is high pitched squealing.
and squealing behind you. Correct. So, and no one's looking at him. They're looking at you. Like you say, that what the hell? I'm the crazy one. And he's look at him and the sound and the whole thing. So do you guys really, honestly, that's where we're going with this, is he didn't exist anybody else.
Well, other people could see him. I know that other people could see him
See
because
his little human form.
his human form.
They
Because
didn't see the
I
other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I saw him the first time, he was talking to another person. Like, he wasn't talking to the wife. He was talking to like another man standing there talking to him. And I know that man could see him. You know what I mean? So I think that other people can see him.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember that show back? I don't know how old you are, back in the day. I can't remember what it's called, but when the guy would put on the glasses, he'd see the reality of the world, and when
Yeah.
he take them off,
They see me or I see them or something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember. And
Yeah.
it was like a TV show, and he put it on, and he could see like the skeleton of the person or the demon. And so I feel like we're at a stage, at least Tina and I, that we have those glasses on.
Yeah.
You guys definitely have
Because we're-
something special about you. I was just saying this yesterday in my recording with Suzanne, come out tonight, but that is a gift. And I'll say it again. If you want to call it a gift, some people don't, some people do, some people call it a curse, but there's something special about you guys versus other people. I mean, I've seen people that
Everybody
probably,
has the ability to do it.
yeah.
It's just whether or not they, it is, if you know that it's there and it's possible, right? Then you are more open to seeing what's there, because everybody has the ability to see it. It is allowing your mind to see what you're seeing, as opposed to, oh, that's not what I saw. We're open to the fact that because we have seen so much, we know everything is possible. So we're like, that's possible.
Well, he or it, whatever the hell we're going to call it, him. He surely did not like the fact that you, I mean, like you said, you may as well have said it out loud and sort of screamed it, troll. He did not like the fact that you knew instantly what he was.
Yeah, and it was almost like, I'm going to scare you so that you don't tell anybody. I'm going to make it as creepy as possible so that you then turn around, and if you tell anybody, you're going to sound crazy.
And top secret, there's a lot of them in politics.
Yeah.
We know their eyes don't close right. So you're talking earlier about the super old guy, and you're like, this dude should not be driving, but he was a good guy. Now, where does a quote unquote person, where does a person or a thing like this go? Does he just meld back into hell? Like how did he get there? How does he leave? That's fascinating.
I think that like him, I think that he lives. So he's. I don't believe that his body is like a human body, right? I think that it is something other, if you will.
Checkbox other.
And I think that it is just a matter of they coexist here on this earth. It's like Bigfoot, right? Bigfoot is real. Just for all of those of you who weren't sure, he is absolutely, well, there's more than one, but they are absolutely real, and they don't have a human body. And I think the only reason that they don't exist, they don't go to Walmart, is because they can't cloak themselves the way that this troll can.
Yet another reason to avoid a Walmart. I mean, we all go. I go too, but my God, you just never know what you're going to see. So, but I do want to ask the culmination of this, because you're running down the main aisle, you want to check out, he's running behind you. What happens when you get to checkout? Does he fall in behind you?
No. So I was running down a side aisle from the light bulbs towards the main aisle. And as soon as I turned onto the main aisle and started running, I glanced back and he wasn't there. So I stopped running and I just walked really quickly and started texting Laura and saying, "Oh, help."
Maybe that's
There's a
because,
troll behind me.
Yeah, since you were already at that point, his job was done.
Right. He'd already scared me and I was leaving.
What an asshole.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And with me, they couldn't get my attention. So I think that's why he did the whole free will healing little spiel.
You won't be calling him to for the commercials for free will healing at all, right?
Yeah.
Not in that voice.
It's still like, I mean, like, honestly, it takes a lot with the shit that we see on a daily basis. It takes a lot to freak me out or make me run away. Like, normally I'm running towards, right? He freaked me out pretty good.
And when did this occur?
See, it was
September 2nd.
No, that was the angel. It was last summer.
Troll. Well, the troll was April. It was around a year. Wow.
Because he just had his birthday.
Yeah.
And remember, we just said the troll thing was a year ago. So just a couple of weeks ago would have been 1 year. That's one of the places we're going to take you, right? When you come visit.
I'm down. I would love to see that dude. I want to have a conversation with something like that.
Yeah, there's other nice things here too.
Hey, I'll take whatever I can get, ladies. It's, I'm on everyone's like, oh, feast or famine. I'm like, no, it's a famine for me. I mean, I talk about this stuff day in, day out. It's my life. But, and I do feel like I'm about as open as one can get, but maybe that's not true. Maybe I need to go into your holistic center for a little work, and then, we can go out into the world and I can ask this troll what the hell his problem is. I don't know.
Well, we'll give you a little "Who's your daddy" and get you open. And
exactly.
Honestly, I think what it is for you. There is. Will you say your first name out loud for me?
Shannon.
So there was an event at 4 that happened to you that has made you kind of close that space. It's something that you saw, and I'm not gonna dig because it's none of my business, but it's something that you saw, that you witnessed, that made you feel very uncomfortable.
I'm seeing a teepee. I don't know if that has any.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. So anyways, it was something that you saw. Were you around tribal land in that time frame?
Not that I know of. Not consciously that I know of.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so yeah, I feel like it was something. It was very ancient, and it wasn't bad. It was just kind of trying to, hey, look at this. You know what I mean? But I think that it kind of flipped a switch, if you will, in your head where you went, yeah, no, I don't want to see any of that anymore. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then hang around children. The children are able to see it all until about the age 7, when this veil that glasses sort of come off. And then just bring awareness to kids. They know, like when they don't want to be around somebody, or if they're even there telling you there's a fairy over there, bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
Trust them, because they unfortunately at 7 we all get sort of screwed when they take our glasses away.
Well, it's usually by the time that they start school, and sometimes it's even earlier.
Yeah.
If the parents are really steeped in religion, a lot of times
shut it down.
They'll shut it down and be like, that's not real, that's not real, that's not real. And children learn really quickly that disapproval from their parents makes their life more difficult. And so, at the same time, they're also being told, for you to be loved, you have to be accepted, and you have to be this, and you have to be that.
Be like everybody else.
Be like everybody else. So they will shut that down real quick.
It's very fresh and new, but we are looking into actually opening a school for children, like I don't know what we're calling it, a mystery school for children, so that we can catch them at that age and make sure that those glasses stay on. Because we're all brought into this world with all the gifts. All the gifts.
Yep.
You can do everything. And unfortunately, as we get older and society gets hold of us, that's all magic, and that's a lie, and it's in the Bible, and it's horrible, and don't do this, and it gets shut down. So our goal here is to all these indigo children that have come into the world, to keep them that way. It'll change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I said, I want to swing back to this quote unquote vulture infestation. Were they actually vultures, you think? And what happened? Like, paint the scene for us.
I'm gonna let Laura do it, because I wasn't here. I had someone tell me about something like this happening about a year ago.
Oh, really?
It's not what Holly. Oh,
okay, got you. About her. Okay, I thought you meant like to.
No.
Yeah. So we were recently told that there was possibly somebody wishing harm and sending negative energy to free will healing. And I know this is going to sound absolutely insane to the majority of people out there, but I do have a dragon that protects me, and I'll call it an energetic dragon. And I have him placed on top of our building to protect every practitioner here and every soul that comes in here. He's almost like our
guardian dragon,
our guardian, but also like that. What is it? I just said it. The light. The lighthouse, right? To tell people, hey, there's good stuff going on here. But anyway, so I have him up there protecting, and there have been, I drive by here every day. My daughter goes to a theater by here and constantly drive in both directions. And it's been several instances where there have been vultures circling, and it's not just 3 or 4, which is what I've normally seen. This is in the 30, 40, 50 amount of vultures, and they're circling around, but they're not over the building. They're in that perimeter.
It's like they're just outside of where the dragon can reach, if you will.
Yeah. And I have been told, I do not know this for a fact, that like if somebody is placing a curse, a possible sign of it is vulture showing up, or gnats, infestation of gnats and flies, things like death, right? Gnats, flies, vultures, of course, eating on something dead. And it's just been weird, because even, my mother does not believe in absolutely any of this. And she was visiting, and I was telling her, and she got to witness these vultures just circling the area.
So then what's the next step? Did you guys, how do you take care of that?
The next step is absolutely no fear. And
we don't allow any fear in, because obviously the dragon's doing his job, because they can't get near us. So we're totally okay with that.
Yeah. No, absolutely no fear.
And the thing is,
I believe in karma very much. Whatever you send out, it's going to come back tenfold. So I'm letting it be.
And in the very beginning of this journey, I had a individual send me to what I now know it was the underworld. So if I can survive that, I can survive anything. I'm not worried about the rest.
Bring
That's
it.
that sounds like a dark story.
It's actually not. It's just I mean, it's creepy because understand that before all of this happened, Shannon, I was an accountant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I was a church going accountant, military wife, mom, and so when all of this happened, when that major event happened, which I wrote a book, you can read about it. But anyway, so when all of that happened, this new world was very shocking to me because it was nothing like what I knew. So I was probably about 6 months into this journey, right? And this, I got asked to go speak at a conference. And so after I got done speaking, this very unassuming, pot-bellied little man comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder and he said, "Can I speak to you for a moment?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I brought my husband with me because, I don't know this dude. And I was still very new and green and scared of everything. And we went into this room and we sat down. And he looks at my husband and he said, "You were sent here to protect her because when they know who she is and what she knows, they'll stop at nothing to try and silence her." And my husband and I both just kind of look at this man like, "What?" And then he proceeds to tell us everything in chronological order that God had told us for the last 6 months. And I just start sobbing because I'm like, OMG, like I have no one to ask these questions to. And obviously this man knows stuff. So I'm like asking him all these questions and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "So can you tell me, why do people believe that hell is down and heaven is up? Because there is no hell and heaven is around us." He smiles and he says, "Close your eyes." And so I close my eyes and he taps my left knee. Now, keep in mind, I'm right handed. So left energetically represents my past. He taps my left knee, my head against my will, because I'm looking straight ahead at him, turns left. It's almost like on a swivel. It like swivels to the left. And my brave, brave husband told me later, he said, "If your head would have kept going, I was out of there." I'm like, "Oh, some warrior you are." He said, "You were sent here to protect me." But anyway, so all of a sudden I was I mean, like physically, like I felt like I physically was in this tunnel and I could smell like the dampness of like this underground tunnel. And there were torches on the wall. And I could feel sand under my feet. I could smell the mustiness. Anyway, so then I can hear two men talking, and they're talking in a dialect that I didn't know, but I could understand them. And one of them was saying to the other one, he said, "You see, that heart was full of lies. It's heavier than the feather." And I look right in front of me, and there's this like old table, and there's like this old wooden scale. And on one side, there was a human heart, and on the other side, there was a feather. And I could smell the blood of the heart. And I started to freak out because in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to get stuck here. And so I open my eyes, and this gentleman is just sitting there smiling at me. And he goes, "Do you understand now?" And I was just like, "Uh-huh." And it totally freaked me out. So I called my daughters and told my daughters about it. And I don't think I told anybody, and my husband witnessed it. So, but I don't think I told anyone else because how weird is that, right? I must be crazy. So about a little bit under a year later, my oldest daughter calls me and she's like, "Mom, I just sent you a video. You need to start watching it at 24 minutes and 3 seconds, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to believe this." And so I go and watch the video, and it's talking about the like Greek, is it Greek mythology?
Mm-hmm.
It's talking about like the Greek mythology.
I'm sorry,
Egyptian mythology. And it's talking about Osiris and Anubis. And it literally has that phrasing in there. And it says, like Anubis is saying to Osiris, "You see, that heart is full of lies, therefore it is heavier than the feather." And I mean, I I was just like freaking out because I'd never heard that phrase before, nor had I ever heard it again. And to find out it is actually a part of Egyptian lore, I was like, oh my gosh, he sent me to the underworld. What in the hell was that? Is so rude. We just met. I mean, I gave no consent. What's going on here? So, that's always been kind of like a weird, kind of cool story. And then about, I don't know, a month ago, Laura texts me because she, of course, obviously knows this story about this gentleman. And you want to tell the rest from there?
I'm like, which story did I tell you? Because I'm always telling you stories.
Yeah, no. Where you said, I think that Grant is.
Oh, so in Egyptian, there's a god called Thoth, and he has like that that bird with the big long beak. That's how they represent him. And his story is that he's just always been, like, from the beginning of time. It's not his physical body that's always been, but it's almost, you could call
it like Santa.
You would call it a like reincarnation, but he is able to maintain awareness of all his past lives.
And let me just say this real quick. So when I asked God about this guy, right, and I said, like, how does he do this? And he said, he's just always been. That's how he's always referred to him as to me, is that this guy has just always been. So when Laura's reading this and she sees that that's how they refer to him, is he's just always been, that kind of piqued her interest. So she kept reading. And then
So I mean, he was just from the beginning of time, he was an Atlantean and then a Lemurian, and then he was one of the gods of Egypt, and of course moved on into the future. But yeah, he's just always been. He was actually one of the creators at that time of this chamber of the underworld, where they measure, the weight of the heart with the feather,
So how weird that connection that he, that they've been telling me since it's been 5 years. They've always referred to him as just that he's always been. Here we are 5 years later. Laura reads about this guy that's just always been, and he just also coincidentally was part of the person who created the chamber to take you to the underworld. And that's where I got set. Okay. That's just a little too many coincidences for me.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. Like, you guys' every day is so very interesting. I'm sitting here going, this is amazing.
You're only an hour and a half from us, Shannon. Just come spend a day at Free Will with us. Trust me.
I think I need to.
Do things,
I think so.
Tina gets called, to do something. She's like, hey, I've been told we need to sit in the middle of our circular area in the office, and we're going to create something, and we're going to get to go and talk in the heavens and meet somebody, or and then I, with my quest for knowledge, I'm always reading, and I literally, the day we did that, when I got home, I picked up a book that just arrived in the mail, and it literally describes what we had just done in the lobby as creating a Merkaba, which is a form of travel into different realms.
So it's a Merkaba is the light that transcends, like when people die and they say, I saw a light, a bright light. That's the Merkaba. It is your
Merkaba is your energetic field around you.
Yeah, but that's what they're seeing, is that light.
Yes.
And so, but it's how they explained it to me was that it is how you transverse from the earthly realm into the heavenly realm. And I don't know if it's the Merkaba itself or if it's your Merkaba meeting something else. The heavenly light, I don't know. And so we sat down in that circular area that I was telling you about of our office, and it was Laura and I and another lady. I'm like, okay, I don't know why, but we're supposed to do this. We're supposed to do this. And we just went through the whole process. And Laura, I mean, I'm used to going into the heavenly realm, so it wasn't like a different for me. But for Laura and for Amanda, both of them were like, oh my gosh, I think Amanda, like, Christ came, and I can't remember,
in a garden,
and I can't remember who came for you.
Mine was sarcastic. Jesus.
Oh, that's right. But anyway, so and then I like talk through the whole process, and I'm literally just repeating what God's telling me. I'm just following directions, right? Because I'm just a pretty face and a voice. So Laura gets home that night after, because it was a really cool experience, and we're like, we need to figure out how to do this for large groups of people so that everybody can go and have that experience, And so Laura gets home and she starts texting me. She's like, you're not going to believe this shit, blah, blah, blah. And she starts taking pictures of pages out of this book that she literally just got in the mail that day. And it talks all about because we didn't even know what it was called, what we were doing was called. She sent me a picture of exactly what we did. It was talking about that it's a Merkaba and it transverses, the heaven and the earth and blah, blah, blah. And it was literally like word for word, this is how you do it. And even like how you put your fingers and so of course, Laura's husband, Lance, who's, he didn't see it. He wasn't there, so he starts thinking, okay, so there's videos out there about the Merkaba, blah, blah, blah. And then he finally dawned on him. He was like, but Tina would have to watch 20 to 30 hours of this stuff and memorize it. And Tina listens to about 10 minutes and is bored and moves on. So that's not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we could teach this to the world, to show them the beauty of unconditional love and what we really are and what our light is and how it always is and always will be. Imagine how that would change people's lives. No fear of death, right? Only
no fear, period.
No fear, and how that would change the way we lived every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you should start to, get that story out there, and then the hashtag sarcastic Jesus needs to blow up. That's all I know.
Oh, he is his shit with me.
He is hysterical. But tell her what he did. It was hysterical.
So Tina has us when we're doing our Merkaba. She said, "Okay, they're telling her, okay, pick which being you want to be. Is it an angel? Is it Jesus? Is it And I'm like, I'm gonna go see Jesus, right? We're buds. I always feel his presence with me. I've never actually seen him, but I feel his presence. So I'm like, I'm going to go hang out with him.
You get to pick the being and you get to have one question.
And you have one question, right? And I don't even remember what my question was. I'm sure it was something sarcastic as well. So I set my intention, right? Not verbally, but in my head. And I'm saying, okay, I want to go talk to Jesus. So we do our elevation. And I wasn't in like this heaven, like I was literally like in desert. I imagined what Jerusalem almost looked like, where, it wasn't the red rock of St. George. It was very, Sahara desert looking. And in the distance, I see this figure just walking along, and he's very cool and very chill, and he's like swinging his arms. And I'm like, I know he knows I'm here, right? We're in this realm. I know he can feel me. And all of a sudden he turns around and very sarcastically goes, "Oh, I didn't know you were coming."
That's extremely sarcastic. Yes.
Very, with me, he is. I'm sure with other people, he's very sister and brother, and I love you. And with me, it's like, what's up, bitch?
I prefer that. I would, that would be more on my level too of communication.
And that's probably why he does that, because that would be my level. I'm not the whole beauty, love.
Yeah.
I'm more like, let's get this shit done and funny and
yeah. If they came at us with thee, thou, the, I'd be like, can I get a dictionary? Because I'm not following it.
Yeah, like squeeze me? No.
Yeah, you know what? And they come to you in the way that you'll accept it.
That you'll hear them.
And that's why everybody's experience is different. And that's why I believe people think that everybody is full of crap, because we all have such different experiences. But it's because if he came at me with this white, beautiful robe and all theatrical, I'd be like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Right. And with Tina, it's this beautiful being with these heavenly blue eyes, and because they knew she'd feel safe and it would feel loving to her. And to me, I'm more like the sarcastic side. So they come at me with humor and different things. So
right. There was a time, it was when Laura and I very first started free will healing. And we
will heal.
Stop it. And that's what everybody around here does when they want to freak me out. Yeah. They mimic the troll.
Oh,
but anyway, so we had just started free will healing, and we were working crazy hours. Like I would probably 12, 14 hours a day, just painting, trying to get everything just right. And my husband, who, he had been in the military for 20 years, and I was the good military wife that took care of everything. And now our roles were shifting, and he was kind of having a hard time with that. And me man.
I cook, make fire.
I bang dish together. So he had talked to me about, I know that you're working a lot, but I feel like you should still be helping around the house. And, he's actually a really great guy. He just was having a douche moment. And so I got home and it was my turn to do the dishes and I was exhausted. And I told him, I said, look, you know what? I'll do the dishes tomorrow. I'm really, really tired and I'll do the dishes tomorrow. And he was throwing a little bitch fit, right? And literally, so we're standing there looking at each other and he's just throwing this little temper tantrum. Christ himself didn't open the door, walked through our French doors, walked right up to my husband, put his hand on his shoulder, and he said, brother, if you are given a precious gem, do you throw it in the backyard like a grain of sand, or do you build it a velvet-lined box to protect it? And if the gem gets scratched, is it the gem's fault? And my husband and I are just sitting there like, is this really happening? And my husband said, I understand. And Christ said, be sure that you do. Father's watching. And then he just disappeared. And at the time, Lance and Laura lived above us. We had a big house and they had the top floor. We had the bottom floor. And my husband and I both just stood there for a second, like, did that really just happen? And I opened the door and I'm like, Laura, you need to come here now. And so her and Lance came downstairs and we told him what just happened. And of course, Lance, I was waiting for him to get like a K2 meter out and start like scanning the area for any kind of energy residual, But that's the kind of things that happen all the time.
Did you get away with not doing the dishes that night, I hope?
As a matter of fact, my husband immediately after Christ left, he looked at me and he goes, I'll do the dishes, you go rest.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Remember, Father's watching.
After that, if you don't do those damn dishes, son, I tell you what, you're going to be in some trouble. Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Incredible stories, a lot of heartwarming stuff. And then, you got the troll peppered in there. So I like it.
Trolls and vultures.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. Well,
I appreciate asking us to come on, and we'll make a list of 75,000 more things for you, and you can pick through them and see which ones you want to hear about.
Well, thank you so much. Well, again, guys, it's freewillhealing.com. Check the ladies out, and of course all the rest of the fantastic healers and people with their specialties there at their venue. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.